Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
How to succeed in influencing marketing? I know that many of us are asking me a lot about this question, how to get results. That's why I'm so excited today to discuss this topic with Gordon Glenister. How are you?
I'm very well, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah,
Good, good,
excited
good.
to learn more about that. I know that it's important today to consider influence marketing to get much higher results. And some companies only use this marketing and ignore the rest. That's okay if it works for them. But I'm looking for solutions how to unite with many different marketing campaigns to get much higher results. Gordon, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about this topic.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be on your show. I sort of stumbled into the influencer marketing industry actually, because I used to run a trade association for the promotional products industry for 11 years. And in 2018, I decided to set my own consultancy up to help other membership organizations with their strategy, one of which was the Branded Content Marketing Association. And I met in a London hotel with the CEO, and when we were having this meeting, I said to him, who's looking after the influencer industry from a best practice and a lobbying perspective? And we just looked at each other as if to say, well, there are all sorts of associations for marketing generally, but nothing very specifically for influencer marketing. So rather than creating something brand new, bearing in mind the BCMA was already an existing association with a global footprint, we launched Influence, which was a division of that. And then it was great, actually. We launched it in a big London nightclub, and lots of publicity, lots of influencers came along. And then after that, I launched the podcast, which is called Influence, the Global Podcast, which has done very well. We're nearly at our 100th episode, which is a little bit behind you, but
Yeah.
And also I've written a book on influencer marketing strategy, which for those watching you can see is behind me. And that, that is because I wanted to find a really almost like a one place compendium of information about what influencer marketing is all about. I almost wrote it for myself, actually. And this year it was shortlisted for Business Book of the Year awards in the UK, which was extremely humbling. So yeah, and I write for magazines and newspapers and all sorts of other things, really. So I'm just passionate about influencer marketing, but about doing it correctly. Not, there's a lot of people that don't know how to do it or do it incorrectly, and that, of course, is a challenge for us all.
Yeah, love your experience. By the way, you use two my loving formats, podcasts and books. I love reading books. I remember when I overwatch TV, spent so much time with that. But once I decided I can't go ahead like this, that's why I replaced this bad habit by reading books. Right now, I love reading books. If I have time, I usually read them, and I love audio podcasts as well because when you're driving, exercising, walking with dogs, you can listen to audio podcasts. Even if your eyes any eyes can be tired, so you can listen to audio podcast to learn more, so you can save a lot of time. Gordon, I have the question about your book. Can you give me a solid reason to read your book and for my audience? Because I can tell why I'm asking about that, because many books are good for sleeping. When you read them, you can, if you have the problems with sleep, you can read, forget anything from this book, sleep well all night. You don't need to buy any pills, medicine, just take boring books. But some books are so great. For example, if I take any book from Jack London, I can feel that I'm part of the journey. He wrote his books like
Absolutely.
100 years ago, and I can forget about anything, sleep, meal, water, anything, because I'm on this book. I live on this journey. So tell your writing style and give a solid reason what kind of benefits can I get by reading your book and my audience can by taking this book.
So it's a great question. It is packed, and I mean packed, with loads and loads of tips and advice. So after, what I wanted to do is to create a practical guide as much as a book, and not only from a how to do influencer marketing, how to find influencers, the different nature of work, what it's like to work with influencers, evaluating campaigns, writing content. We've featured a number of influencer platforms and agencies that you can go after and find partnerships with. I think, do you know what I did with this book, which I'm really pleased about? Because in 2018, I won't lie, I knew very little about influencer marketing, and that isn't very much long ago now. And here we are, 2022, and I'm probably one of the significant players within the influencer industry. And that is because when I wrote the book, I wanted to interview some of the leading players within the sector. So it is basically a huge amount of insights and interviews that I've been able to weave into the book, and case studies about how campaigns have worked for everything from drink brands to gaming brands, all sorts of different things. And I think that adds a lot to it. What I've also done for those people that want to read super quick, at the end of each chapter, I've done 10 highlight tips. So it's almost like if you had 10 minutes to read my book, you could just go to the end of each chapter and get a summary of the 10 actionable points from each of them. And that, I think, just makes it very easy reading. There's also a glossary of terms at the back there. So when people talk about micro influencers and nano influencers and cost per acquisition, CPAs and stuff like that, what do they mean? So I've really tried to lay it out as best I can.
Nice, awesome. Okay, guys, you can find the link to this book in the description below. I'm going to put this book on my list because I have so big list to read many great books. But yeah, I'm going to read your book because I want to know more about influence marketing. I have the question. I found that we can divide customers who need influence marketing in 3 categories: someone who never tried, someone who tried but failed, and someone who succeed with influence marketing. And I spoke with all categories, and the first category replied to me, they can't hire Kim Kardashian, Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi. So if they can't cooperate with big influencers, they don't think this channel will work. The second category usually tried. Of course, not with Kim Kardashian, but tried, but they can't get results. They spent like $500, $1,000, but they can't succeed. And the third category, they love this channel, they earn a lot, So can you tell how to help the first and the second category of people?
Right. Well, the most important thing is that influencer marketing is not a silver bullet. In the same way that if you go and watch a TV advertising campaign once, an advert, you don't rush out and say, great, I've got to buy this product. So a lot of it traditionally, influencer marketing was what we call top of the funnel advertising, creating as much brand awareness as possible. Now, actually, because of the way it's advanced, it's actually a big part in the conversion process because of UTM links to TikTok shops and all sorts of other things, which is driving conversions on an epic level, actually. But what I would say first and foremost, there are experts in the field. There are influencer agencies. There are influencer platforms that are there designed. The reason they have grown up so rapidly is because a lot of people that have tried and failed with influencer marketing, they don't know where to start. They don't know who to approach, who's a good influencer and who's not. Look at it like you're recruiting somebody within your own business at promoting or selling your product or service. you would do due diligence, wouldn't you? You'd ask for a CV, yeah? You'd want to make sure that somebody that you're bringing into your fold is going to be a right fit. So aligning the values is really, really important. So what I would say to start with is have a look. If you're going to do it on your own, and let's just say you're going to do it on Instagram, start to have a look at the types of individuals, probably if you've not got a huge budget, nano and micro influencers. And these are the sorts of people that have got much higher levels of engagement on their posts. And that's largely because they're able to respond to those followers in a very swift and engaging way. So it's not necessarily about the Kim Kardashians, as you say. It's about those people that have got often up to 100,000 followers, but often even as low as 5 or 10,000 followers can be equally successful. So the other thing is start to reach out to the types of people that you would like to work with. And that's the equivalent of going into a conference room and not thrusting a business card in front of somebody and saying, buy my product. Try and build a relationship with your target influencer by actually liking and commenting on their content. If they've got 20,000 followers and they've got great engagement, praise them, acknowledge them. I love your content. It's really exciting. So by the time you're ready to reach out to them, you can actually do just that. And in the form of, I've followed you for a while there. I love your content. We've got a great product that I'd like to share with you that I think could work very well as a potential collaboration. Could we have a conversation to explore that in a little bit more detail? Or you can be even more specific and say, how much would you charge for a story and 2 posts on Instagram to get an idea of it? Now, the other thing that's really important is the data behind these influencers' accounts. And don't be fooled by some of that, because there are some accounts, sadly, which have had bot followers, or very, very low engagement rates. And the way around that is to ask them if they have a media deck. That's like the equivalent of a CV, which will show you the types of brands, partnerships, and campaigns that they've run before and the results that they've had. That's super helpful for you. But also, many of the influencer platforms and agencies will give you a huge amount of data now on engagement rates, the mix of their follower base. So here's an example. Say you had a particular beauty brand that you really wanted a lot of targeting women. Now, if you were to find a female influencer, beauty influencer that had 50,000 followers, you might think, this is great, right? She's got a great aesthetic, everything looks good, but you've no idea the gender split of her audience. 70% of that audience may be men. That's no good for you. 70% of that audience could be based in America. Well, if you're based in the United Kingdom, irrelevant. Yeah. So what's really important is the data behind the influencers' followers. That is the sweet sauce that really matters. Also, you're not going to get a lot of results from just one influencer. You can, but not always. So it's like if you're betting on a horse race and you've got 15 horses, some of them are going to come in 1, 2, and 3, and others may not be. You're dealing with human beings at the end of the day. So there are, however, that said, by working with a number of influencers that have got slightly different markets and niches, that can be great for you as an organization, because you can see maybe different markets. And let's not forget, influencer marketing doesn't always have to be about buying and selling immediately. Influencer marketing can also be about research, understanding what your potential clients might like. Brands like Nike are now starting to use influencer marketing to develop new products. And by working with their ambassadors, exploring the ideas of having your own personal shoe made. This has all come as a result of influencer marketing. If I go and watch a TV and I see an advert or listen to a radio, I can't connect with the TV and say, no, I like that particular product. You can with influencer marketing straight away. And that's why it's such a powerful medium, because it gives instant results, not only back to the influencer, but also back to the brand as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. By the way, these guys have no internet. They're from North Korea, but I hope they will have internet in one day, democracy and any other stuff, and we will learn more about influence marketing. Okay, Gordon, can you tell how to find the right influencer? For example, if I can't allow Kim Kardashian, Cristiano Ronaldo, but I need to find a list of influencers that you mentioned that can help to sell my products and lead my business in a new direction.
Yeah, so I mentioned influencer platforms. That is definitely one way in which you can do that and find that. Or indeed working with a specialist influencer agency is another way. There are PR and marketing agencies who often have pre-approved lists of influencers that they've worked with. You can find them at events. Lots of product launches and brands now will have influencers promoting their products and services. So networking is also a good way to do that. You can obviously use the direct approach by using hashtags as well. That's often quite a good thing by just doing food influencers. You can use good old Google, like food influencers. If you type in food influencers, you're going to find a whole lot of information and blogs that have been written about all various people. So they've done the work for you. And in pretty much every genre you're going to find on Google. And then that gives you a pool in order to start that process. There are also influencer apps around which you can have a look at. I have featured a number of influencer agencies and platforms on my website. Actually, I'll send you the link that you can have a look at if you like, so that if you want to share that in the link with your viewers and listeners.
You can send to the private chat, from the right side. Send me.
Okay.
I'll submit to podcast episode. So yeah, of course.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, that's just some ways in which you can do that. One thing I would say though, we've talked a little bit about Instagram. Remember, influencers come in all shapes and sizes and all guises. We've now got fintech influencers. We've got people, what we call B2B. These are people that may not necessarily refer themselves as influencers. They may be, experts in their field. They may be journalists. They may be all sorts of different individuals, but they still have influence and can be involved in report writing. So it's not just about selling a product or service, but actually it's about getting other people to promote your product or service. What we're also seeing develop more recently is employee influence, and realizing that actually, if you can get your employees within your organization to share your content in a really engaging way, it's an easy win, and it's virtually no cost. So people like IBM, which I'm sure you're familiar with, big global giant, they actually now have an advocacy program that they have in place. They've even named their people IBMers, and those IBMers are technical experts who are seen to be highly trustworthy amongst their client base. So they are sharing content from IBM on their own LinkedIn, on their own Twitter. And some of them now have got huge audiences, way, way bigger than the salespeople, because they're seen as trusted authority figures within that organization.
Yeah, nice tips. Okay, let's talk about how to choose the right influencer. For example, we have micro influencer, macro influencer, big influencers. So can you tell how to choose between them. And you mentioned that some influencers can have a lot of bots. How to find that these influencers have bots, not real people who can buy our services? Anything about that?
Yeah. So, if you look at going back to Instagram, on average, Instagram has an engagement rate of around, what is it, 0.7% or something like that. So, in a way, what you're looking for is when I've been involved in running campaigns with influencers, we're looking for a 3% or more. And this is really important because it's not always about the size of the audience, it's about the relevance of the audience. So that's why stuff like a media deck is important, and having a look at their aesthetic and having a look at the amount of posts that are sponsored versus those that are organic. Do you understand what I mean by that? So in other words,
Yeah.
what we don't want is an influencer that's promoting Coca-Cola one day, Pepsi the next, and Tango the next. We don't want a market trading influencer. We want somebody that is able to nourish, grow their own audience. So stuff like audience growth rate is an important metric to have a look at. As I said, engagement rate, the quality of their content. So are they using, good quality pictures and videos? Because if they're doing that for themselves, then they're likely to promote your product and service in a really, really good way. So I just go back to the point I was making earlier. It's about doing your due diligence with the people that you're going to work with. I also suggest that if you are going to run a campaign, is making sure that you have enough budget. Because actually, so often people think, oh, well, if I just send an email or a direct message to them, and I give them a free dress or a free mug or something, they're going to go out and promote that, as though those influencers have been waiting for your text all day and they've got nothing else to do. As I said in one of my podcasts, a free dress doesn't pay the rent. So really think about what you have when you're buying into an influencer is an engaged marketplace, and that has its own value. So make sure that you think about what budget to set. Now, some of these things are very negotiable, and what a lot of the time brands and influencers or agencies are doing are sort of creating a bit of a bundle. So, it might mean that you don't have a huge amount of budget to spend on an influencer, and that's fine. Start with smaller ones. You can get influencers to do stuff for like $200 a post. Doesn't have to be very expensive. And you can trial it out with maybe 5 or 10 of them, but ask them before you commit to it. Make sure that you've got a proper brief that tells them exactly about your product or service, what it is you're trying to achieve. So influencer campaigns work really, really well where the influencer has been involved right at the start of the journey. So they understand what you're trying to do because they want it to work as much as you do. Because if it works well for them, what's going to happen in the future? You're going to come back to them and spend more money with them and more money. And ultimately, an influencer wants a longer term partnership with a brand because they know it's working. They also know that their audience is reacting well to the content. There's nothing worse than an influencer creating a piece of content and it goes flat. Because you think, well, why did that go? Why? Because actually it wasn't the right type of product or service for my audience. But, a good influencer will know that. And what they'll also not want to do is be a mouthpiece just for your brand. So if you've put something in the brief that says, please say this, and this, and only do that, and that, you're being too tight and narrow with that briefing. And bearing in mind, you're buying into somebody who really knows how to engage and grow an audience. You want to give them not so much prescriptive. You want to tell them what to do and and briefly perhaps what has worked before, but leave them to make their own communication and tone of voice.
Yeah, agree, 100%. Because, for example, if someone will tell me how to write a post, okay, I can, but I'm not sure that we can get high engagement because I know my audience. I know what kind of post they love to consume. So, yeah, it's better not to limit influencers.
Absolutely.
And I get a lot of requests. Please check out my software. You can get an year without payment, get free version, but it's interesting that really it's hard to find time. So it doesn't mean that I always deny, but I have my priorities. That's why I pay attention to them and can deny. But you mentioned about uh, outreach. You mentioned about personalization. Can you tell how to write emails that will give a strong reason to influencer to check out your products because they're busy? Most influencers
Absolutely.
are busy people. They have no time with that. So, any insights?
It's a very good point. And I'm telling you now, 70% of influencers ignore direct messages and emails. 70%. So with that in mind, you've really got to think about crafting something that's highly specific and that you have done your homework. I tell you what, influencers hate is blanket emails that you've sent to loads and loads of other words. Something that says "Dear influencer" is a complete and utter no-no. That says you haven't even taken the time to find out what my name is and who I am. So I think first and foremost is do your research. And I said earlier, if you can start to like and comment some of their stuff, that's great. I would also say have a look at trying to connect something that they have done that's really good. So rather than saying, oh, I like your content, I love the story that you wrote about this. This really resonated with me, and I think it could be a really good fit for our brand promotion that we are exploring as we speak. We'd like to potentially have a conversation with you about a future collaboration, and love to get an idea of what your rates are. So I think as well, you're assuming that they're going to charge you. Again, a lot of brands don't do that. They assume that if they don't put that in the outreach, that the content creator will just happily promote something for nothing. So there's two things that make a difference to an influencer is growing and nurturing their audience. So anything that you can say that will help them do that by creating something exclusive and beneficial. And then secondly, some form of compensation in any sort of form that takes involved in it. I mean, you can be very specific and say, we're looking for a quote on 2 posts and 1 story on your Instagram and TikTok, because they then know straight away that you're serious and you're not wasting their time. You could also share with them a little bit about the product, but perhaps not massive. What we're trying to do is to tease them, is to give them a little bit of because what you want them to do is to find out more. So you could also say, would you like us to send you our product brochure, or would you like to jump on a call to have a further conversation about this? So in other words, create a little bit of a call to action that isn't over in your face. Also, try and use friendly language, tone. And the reason I say that depends on who you're talking to, of course. If you're talking to a fintech entrepreneur, it might be different. But a lot of influencers, are women. 80% of influencers are women. Average age 28. So be mindful of not always sounding overly corporate. is trying to create a friendly environment on that outreach. And any other links that you can create to your website or to your Instagram is all good.
Yeah, nice, nice. By the way, one thing that I can't deny: books. I love when book authors send me their books because it's my weak side. I love reading books, so I read them, leave reviews on my social media, and yeah. So it's when someone are asking about check out their software tool, yeah, it depends on my time, but books, my big side. Okay. Gordon, I have the question about common mistakes. Can you list mistakes that companies still do in influence marketing, and how to find a much better way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think first and foremost is they don't do their research. I think that's a massive error of judgment. So making sure that you've taken time to do that, and that's why, of course, there are experts that have created vetting procedures that allow you to do that. Another common mistake is not using the proper advertising disclosures like hashtag ad, and that some of those content creators have now been pulled up by the Advertising Standards Authority and appeared on their black watch list. That's not very good for the influencer and or the brand. So making sure that they've got proper brand safety guidelines. Not having two things: a proper brief and a contract. And the reason why it's important to have a brief is that everybody is clear about what is expected of them, when the posts are supposed to go live, what type of posts they are. Is it going to be a video? And if so, how long? Even things like pronunciation. You said at the beginning of our pre-warm-up, can I just make sure I understand the pronunciation of your name? Well, just imagine if you've got the influencer has gone out to a shoot location, has done the video and really, really great, and has pronounced the name of the brand wrongly. So when she's gone to have that approved by the brand, they say, we love the video, but you've pronounced our name. You need to go back and do that again. Well, that is a huge amount of time and cost wasted, when if that could have been easily identified at the briefing stage. Things like remuneration, not just the amount, but when they're going to get paid. You don't want to be paying an influencer 3 months after they've done the job. If you want to upset an influencer, then that's surely the way to do that. And also, they've got an audience that they can tell people about in a negative way as well as a positive way. So, what else? And not having proper call to actions and links. So people have seen a great video, they've seen a great product or service, but where does it go? What's the next call to action? Making sure that an influencer campaign has a diverse mix of influencers, particularly in the society that we live in now. Sometimes a brand thinks, oh no, we just want to have beautiful people in it, and we want to have beautiful white women under the age of 30. Well, are you saying then that the only people that buy your product and service are beautiful white women under the age of 30? No, you're not. So be mindful of using influencers that really reflect your product and services, or what you'd like to have as your future audiences. So I think those are some of the key things. I mean, one other thing is treat influencers as human beings. They are one of the issues. During the pandemic, some of them obviously made a lot of money, which was great, but a lot of them didn't. They had their entire income affected by the fact that lots of brands stopped spending money for a period of time. These are people that are working on their own, working all God hours, and some, they have the pressures, the stresses of sometimes inadequate work or too much work, and they have overwhelm. So just because they haven't responded to something immediately doesn't mean to say that they don't want to. It's because sometimes they're just simply overwhelmed. So treat them with respect, treat them with guidance and help, and ideally try and work with them as a collaboration so that everybody wins out of it.
Nice, awesome tips. Gordon, I have the question about, let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. What would you do today to learn more about influence marketing?
The first thing is to buy my book.
Yeah, okay.
But actually, remember, to be influential, it's not about all of the goodies, the treats, the earning money, the going on the trips. It's about really thinking about an audience, and that is driven by you having a passion that you believe in. So I would start to think about laying things out with what are you good at? What do you love doing? Because there's nothing worse than somebody saying, "Oh, I want to be a beauty influencer. I'm going to do some tutorials." Well, actually, there are thousands of people like that. What are you going to do that's going to be different from everybody else? And so, really understanding what is your unique selling proposition, if that's what you want to do. A brand is what somebody says about you when you're not in the room. So think about what are the three words that could best describe you to somebody else. We have an attention span that's lower and lower than it has ever been before. We're now living in the attention economy, and we're also living in the personal branding economy. We're all brands in some shape or form. So in order to influence, you have to be somebody that has knowledge, has trust, is likable, is responsive. All of those things that are that we like and admire from other people, we can then adopt ourselves. Because there's no point in being a great looking person with a lot of knowledge if you don't get back to people. It's about having those really key attributes. The other suggestions I would have a look at is start to tag the types of brands that you would like to work with, so they are seeing your content. Because the way the algorithm is working, if you've got a relatively small audience, it's only going to be shown to about 5% in any one time. So the only way to do that is to tag people, or indeed put some paid media behind it, which, by the way, is a significant growth at the moment. A lot of influencer campaigns are supported by paid media. They know the content works well, but it's just not seen by enough eyeballs on itself. So paid media, does help tick that box.
Nice. Gordon, I have the question about, for example, today we have a lot of platforms that can help to customize the process to find influencers. But you mentioned about outreach by email to search, to do all this job yourself. So, any insights? Which way is better to use platforms that can simplify the process, or to outreach influencers directly and cooperate directly?
Okay, so it's a good question. I would say a lot of it comes down to money and time. If you've got a little bit of budget, a reasonable amount of budget, and you haven't got a lot of time, easy answer: use an expert that has already got that data, and that these individuals are working day in and day day night on running campaigns, so they know what works, and they're in a position to give you regular reports. They know the types of influencers that are going to work really well for you. And you can work with an influencer platform from a few $1,000s, $5,000, £5,000 upwards.
Mhm.
If you want to just try it on a very small level, you are likely to be doing it yourself, and just trialing it out. But don't just try with one or two. If you can, try at least with between 5 and 10, and do it at the same time. What a lot of people I find that doesn't work very well is they say, "Oh, well, I tried influencer marketing, it didn't work." Well, that's because they did it sporadically. And it's like chucking something at the wall and hoping it will stick. There was no strategy behind it. Do you know what I mean? There was no mini campaign behind it. So, that's why I wrote the book, to be honest, is to make sure that if you want to make influencer marketing work, make sure that you have proper goals, use the right influencers, the right content at the right time, and evaluate it properly.
Nice, valuable. Okay, I have the final question. Today, we know about AI. AI can create content. I use AI tools to generate text, but I usually edit them. And what do you think about the future? Can you predict the future in influence marketing? Because many things are coming. Metaverse, augmented reality, AI today can replace some human occupations. What kind of future will be in your predictions?
Yeah, well, interesting, isn't it? How AI is really taking over so much of what we do, and there are influencers, of course, that are artificial influencers. That I mean, I'm just trying to think of the little Michaela has got over
Uh-huh.
3 million followers, looks as real as anything, reacts in the same way, but is not real.
Yeah.
And so I think we are going to see more of that sort of technology. We are going to see even greater data analytics. More and more brands and organizations are using influencers. We trust the opinions of people more than we do traditional advertising now. The figures don't lie. So I think and what we're also going to see is ordinary people become, almost, they may not refer themselves as influencers, but we're going to start to see more consumer fans being able big growth in communities, and that's already happening, by the way. Lots of brands are creating their own online communities, and whilst they may have started with influencers, they're realizing that actually they've got fans within their customer base that are already talking about their products and services and sharing content. So I think just more user-generated content is liquid gold for brands as well. So the future's very positive, I think, for influencer marketing.
Yeah, the future is positive if you love what you do, if you're passionate about your stuff, and it doesn't matter. AI will promote your products or people being will promote your products. Just love what you do and go ahead. Because of course AI will replace some occupations, but it happened many times in our history. Some occupations disappear. AI can't replace all human beings, but some occupations, of course, companies are looking for automation. Yeah, we use
Well,
them.
yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why the influencer platforms have been so successful is because the process back and forth with influencers can be very time consuming. The contracting, the briefing, all of that is a lot of work now that has been automated so that influencer can just tick, they can upload their content, the brand can tick and say, yes, it actually has improved massively from reams and reams of emails back and forth. But you'd have to do that if you were just doing that on your own. So these sort of self-service SaaS platforms have really come onto their own now.
Yeah. By the way, Microsoft Bing, is going to adopt ChatGPT to Outlook, and it's interesting that in the future you can write reply to emails with AI. So just to click the button, please reply to my boss, to my customer. I have no time, and probably AI wrote this email, not boss, not a customer. So AI will speak to each other. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, Gordon, it's a big pleasure to get on my show, to learn from you. Tell our audience how to reach out to you, how to learn more about you, how to follow you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show. So yeah, GordonGlenister.com. You've got my name in the message there. So I've got lots and lots of content there, lots of blogs, downloadable guides. I have a Facebook group called the Influencer Marketing Secrets and a VIP club. You can also listen to the Influence Global podcast, which you can get on all leading podcast shows. And hopefully there's lots of tips and ideas. And if you want to have a chat with me at any one time about some ideas about how to start an influencer campaign, or indeed become more influential yourself, then I've got all my contact details on my website.
Yeah, guys, you can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. A big pleasure. Welcome back anytime to share more valuable insights. Let me know if you have a new book. I'll submit this book to the podcast episode. I'm going to read it because I love reading books. Okay, guys, love you. See you.